Welcome to another unboxing from TST Group. This time, as our channel, RV Daydream, suggests, this is the TST Dreamer. So let's unbox this, put this together, show you what it's going to take to assemble it so you can start enjoying this fat tire bike right away.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream.
It came FedEx, obviously, packaged very well. Whenever you first open the box, there's going to be loose pieces of styrofoam in here. Make sure that you recycle what you can, but also check among the packaging for stuff like this. You definitely don't want to throw away your accessories. Depending on your strength and your comfort with lifting something that was in excess of maybe, let's say, 70 pounds, you can at this point lift everything out as one piece. A lot of times I do that. However, probably best to cut the box down the side, being careful not to cut into the tires or the product. Look down inside the box as you're cutting it with your razor knife. Then allow the sides to open up, holding the bike to make sure that it doesn't fall over. Once the bike has been removed out of the packaging, it's time to cut off all the wire ties that are holding the handlebars, the steering, the fork protectors, and any other protective packaging off. Make sure that you're cutting the white wire ties and not anything that would be a cable or a hose. If you have hydraulic brakes, that would cause a problem with the bike's functions. Once most of the packaging has been removed, at this point you can turn your attention to the front tire, and these components here, they just pull off. They're just protectors for the axle. At this point in the assembly, we're going to take a look at the accessories so we can pick up the wrenches that are necessary to assemble the handlebar onto the bike, position it lightly, and tighten it slightly so that we can adjust it once the bike is fully assembled and it's at level, so you can be comfortable when you ride. We're also going to prepare this for the kickstand. So let's look at the accessories. Standard packaging for TST. Open this up. You're going to find your user manual, and this is going to cover not only the step-through design like we have there, but also a step-over design. They're going to show you all the components that come in the kit. You're going to go ahead and double check to make sure that's there. They also talk about the bike and its specifications, talking about installing the kickstand and then the handlebars, again with tools provided, and then they'll go on to show you how to install the front wheel and tire, and then the pedals. Also, you have your warranty card. This is going to be the rear guard to protect the derailleur. Your toolkit, again, wrenches and Allen wrenches that are in here for assembly. You're going to get your axle. This is going to be the front axle for the bike. You see there's a couple of cone-shaped springs. Make sure you don't lose those, and keep the orientation to where the small part of the cone, once installed, will point inward towards the shocks or towards the tire. Here you have the kickstand with the mounting hardware with Loctite. Then above standard, 3 amp charger is included. Of course, the power cord. They give you some accessory bolts. And then, of course, the pedals. During the entire assembly process, I think this is probably some of the most critical parts of the assembly that you have to pay attention to. First of all, the gooseneck of the bike is pointed in the wrong direction. They do that for shipping. So you have to make sure that the forks are orientated the way that they currently are, and that's with the support hoop between the two shocks to be forward facing. We're going to be going to this bolt when we mount the light. Also, to turn the gooseneck at that point to where everything is in line with the frame and with the forks, and of course once the tire's mounted, with the tires, so your steering is correct. You're going to do that by loosening these 2 bolts and this bolt on top. Rotate it around, line it up, tighten the top bolt here, or Allen headed bolt You're going to then insert the protective cover that finishes the look on this, and then tighten these two side pieces, or these two bolts that go in opposite directions, to cinch on to the fork, the part that comes up through the stem. So that, again, I think is the most critical. So this has to be facing the right way. This has to be facing the right way. They have to be in alignment. And then once you go to put the handlebars on, you have to make sure that you don't twist your cables around the wrong way. You don't want to have the cables going under the bike or over the bike in a manner that you can't steer. So you have to be particularly careful when you're doing that and placing the handlebars up onto the mount that will be facing forward. This mount will be facing forward, which we'll show you here, just to make sure that everything stays in a line, and once you're riding the bike that you can turn easily without activating brakes or pulling cables apart. So what I'm going to do again is loosen these bolts, turn the gooseneck forward, and then retighten them when everything's in a line. Then at that point, I will take the handlebars and we'll mount them using the window and the gauge that's built into the handlebars to help you with positioning for your ride comfort. You can see I've got the handlebars positioned in pretty much a central position with this bullseye in the center of the window that's available on the clamp that holds it on. Whenever you tighten this down, you want to make sure that there's an equal gap all the way around on this clamp so that it has a good pull and grab on the handlebar. You don't want the top two bolts to be tight and then the bottom ones to be partially tight. You want them all equally pushing on the bar or clamping on the bar. The positioning of the handlebar is going to be purely to your preference of what you like for the ride. You're not going to be able to necessarily set this position until the front tire is on, so that you are sitting on the bike and you can adjust it at that point. So I suggest that you leave this partially loose, and then once you get it with the front tire on, which we're getting ready to show you, then tighten that down, as I mentioned. Off camera, this piece here, it actually came out of the brake caliper. Make sure you remove this before you put your tire on. But more importantly, now we have to remove this bolt, which they give you a wrench that will take out the nuts. All you're gonna do is loosen these nuts on both sides, and then loosen one of the outside, and you'll see the bolts just fall out. Again, this can be discarded. This is just for shipping. Now we're going to install the tire onto the forks. It's best that if you have a second pair of hands that might be able to help you to call them out. I'm going to attempt to do this myself since I've done them so many times. But we want to place this axle onto the bike by removing this outer nut here, which is just toolless. You don't need a tool for this. And then again, that cone spring, and just remember the orientation. This then, what they call a skewer, will go through the axle. Once it's come through the other side of the axle, I've got the tire flipped around here. We're going to put that cone spring back on, small side in, and then just barely tighten the outside nut, maybe 2 turns. Now you want to make sure that the clamp, the flip over clamp, is open. Make sure it's not to the closed position, and that's with the curve in. Make sure it's either straight out or pointed down to the point where the curve is facing out. Whenever you position this, you're going to drop the forks down on top of the bolt or the skewer, but more importantly, you want to line this disc breakup with the caliper. So again, a second set of hands would be handy here, but I'm going to attempt to do this on my own. And that's pretty much it. You can see why I say another set of hands would come in handy. And at this point, I would put down the kickstand, but I didn't install it yet. So my last assembly, I remembered to install the kickstand before I did this process, because that's really the way to go. You wouldn't have to worry about balancing the bike. You could just then tighten this. But since I don't have the kickstand installed, I'm going to have to balance this and show you how to tighten this. Essentially what you're going to do is tighten by hand the nut on the right hand side of the bike, which is away from the disc. Then this lever, all it's doing is going to give you its final tension. And how you achieve that is by closing it. So we're going to go ahead and continue to tighten on the other side, that clamp as much as possible, or that nut as much as possible. And now, again, when you close this, it locks the wheel onto the forks. You want to make sure it points forward slightly so you get your full closed position. And you want to make sure that whenever you're closing it, it has enough pressure that it puts an indentation on your hand. That's kind of a good gauge. You don't want it to be so tight on the other side that you can't get this closed. But at this point, the front tire is assembled on the bike. All right, so as far as the kickstand goes, it may be a little counterintuitive when you first get it. A lot of people try to position this on the front and then it doesn't work. So being careful of this cable here, you want to put the cable on the outside of everything, but there's a machined area in the back that allows this kickstand to seat nicely in a little pocket, and then the bolts go through the front. You just tighten those down. You see it's got Loctite on there. That will keep it in place. So once we do this, we'll have ourselves a kickstand. I won't have it leaning against the box. Okay, so we flip the bike around to show you what the derailleur protector looks like to be assembled, and it's very simple. The thing is, you will have to get yourself either a crescent wrench or a 19mm wrench to loosen the axle bolt on the back of the bike. But other than that, it's very straightforward. You're going to loosen this nut, and you're going to pull the washer that's up against the frame out towards the nut. You're going to drop the protector behind the cable, but also behind the nut onto the bolt and the washer. You want the washer on this side, and then you're just going to retighten it. Again, this is to protect the shifter in case the bike tumbles or if you lay on its side during transport or up against something. And then at that point, you just retighten the nut. Okay, I've got you down here near the cranks because we're going to assemble the pedals. One of the things everybody gets confused about is the pedal assembly and which direction they may turn. So you've got a pedal that on the end is marked L and on the other one's marked R. Of course, that's going to be for left and right. Maybe on the outside, sometimes they put a sticker on it somewhere else. But the thing to remember about getting the correct pedal is once you find out what side is what, on the right side, you're just going to tighten it just like you normally would. And the reason that I know this is because as you're pedaling, you're cranking forward. Just remember that you're pedaling forward in this direction. So that means this pedal is going to go in this direction to be tightened. Now on the opposite side, on the left side, of course, you're turning this way when you're pedaling the bike. So your pedal's going to tighten in that same manner. It's going to be turned in the direction that you would pedal the bike. And the reason they do this is for safety, so that the pedals don't back out on their own. They will tighten down as you ride. So you should give these a pretty good snug fit to make sure that they're tight to the crank. But in reality, they should tighten up on their own if you happen to not get them as tight as you think they might need to be. However, with the wrench that they provide, the 15mm, you can tighten them no problem at all, just like I showed you there. Now let's focus our attention on the headlight. Pretty straightforward here. The headlight, you're going to make sure that the cable reaches, obviously, and in this case it's a little bit short, so I'm going to have to do just a little bit of loosening of cable management to allow it to drop a little bit further. However, very straightforward. You're going to remove the nut and the washer off of the back of the fork assembly. The headlight's going to come down. You're going to put the bolt back through and then push it through the fork assembly and put your nut and your washer back on. And then tighten it all back up again. At that point, you can adjust your reflector and your headlight as much as you need. The thing is, the reflector is pretty important because this will actually provide more light going back towards a vehicle than this will. So make sure you position that. Since the bike is at its full ride height, you can figure out how you want to adjust this, how you want the handlebars to feel in your hands when you're sitting on the bike. And then you're going to tighten the 4 screws, as I mentioned before, leaving that equal gap all the way around the clamp. Also, you can get into their spare bolt kit that's in the accessories, and you can get that plug to put in the top. Again, this kind of makes it a finished look, so it's not so abrupt. Plus it keeps water out of there too. You're now in the final process of everything. You're going to check the tire pressure and make sure what the book says is what the tires are set at. You can adjust them a little bit for your comfort. These big tires don't require very much pressure at all. You're also going to adjust the controller to make sure that it's positioned so you can see it well. You want to mess around with the brakes. You want to make sure that with these hydraulic brakes that you pump them a few times to make sure that they are engaging. You're also going to adjust your seat. Make sure that you put it in a position that you're comfortable with. A lot of people like to ride it higher. It depends on how you ride. I don't like to pedal a lot, but that's going to be personal preference there. Also, during these final pieces of getting it ready to ride, you want to check your battery, see what the condition is of it. It may need charged, but as far as assembly, this is done. So the links are down below for this, and this is a beautiful bike. If you want to purchase this bike or other ones from TST, please use the link down below, and it'll allow me to do more videos just like this for assembly and instruction of unboxing. I appreciate it, guys, and as always, we hope to see you out there.